Hi everyone, not the knee at all, Tano here, the internet's laziest wino. Worst teeth in the game, here to do something a little different. Here to talk about music, here to talk about death grips. Now, when I think about the current decade, I think this is probably the best decade for music, for media in general, of all time. Why? Because there's just so much of it. Everything's being iterated on, everything's being changed, everything's growing, changing, getting better, getting more different, more people are influencing each other, and there's just more. It's easier to release, there's more out there. For a music fan, what more could you ask for, you know? If you like the old stuff's still there. There's people making stuff like the old stuff if you want new stuff that sounds like the old stuff. And there's also new stuff that you could never have imagined coming out in the past. Coming out now. Great time to be into music. But what I wonder is this a great era for bands? When I think of a band, of like a legendary band, of a great band, I think of it as a sort of a personality, right? Or a group of personalities coalescing. When people think about, like, the Beatles, they don't just think about the music. They think about who the Beatles are. You know, John Lennon and Ringo Starr, and I don't listen to the Beatles. I'm sorry. I'm the internet's laziest wino. I'm not the internet's busiest music nerd. But, you know, I understand the way that they've been culturally received and remembered over time. A bunch of, characters, if you will, who came together. And even in the music, there's a story to be told about, like, the way that they changed, the way that they responded to their fame, to their place in culture, you know. All of them went on to have interesting careers. I don't think any of them were really known before the Beatles, but, you know, some great bands are because you knew those people beforehand. It's a coalescing of personalities. And I think that in this modern age, there's a lot more focus on the music alone and perhaps less on bands. And there are a lot of people in the music industry who are, infamous or outspoken or known for their personalities. You have guys like Mark Kozelek of Benji. That was the album, not the Sun Kill Moon. Mark Kozelek, you know, out there, everything he says becomes news. These big personality people, but there's not a lot of, like, bands that I see talked about this way anymore. There's not a lot of, like, bands where every person in it is famous, where the narrative of the band itself is famous, where the identity of the band is something people relate to. You know, I think back to in prior decades, oftentimes people weren't just into a band because of the music, they were into them because of the image, because of the message, because of who they were as people. You know, it went beyond the music. And I'm not saying that's better than just being into the music. Personally, I'm mostly into music. I don't necessarily get as into the band. But I think it's interesting when you have a great band, a band that stands out as a band, where the band itself is greater than the sum of the individuals in it. It's more of a thing, more of a personality and a cultural landmark, or whatever the word for that would be. Anyway, Death Grips is one of the few bands that really stands out for their identity and the people in it. Death Grips is a experimental hip-hop trio consisting of lead vocalist MC Ride, real name Stefan, I don't remember his last name, drummer Zach Hill, and producer Flatlander. I don't know his real name at all. But there are these three guys, and all three of them are like these strange characters. You've got Zach Hill, who's the best known of the three, who was the drummer for the band Hella, has done lots of weird experimental shit. He's this crazy drummer who just drums insanely fast. Everything he's on is just him going ape shit on drums. One of the most, like, technical and fast playing and crazy drummers in the business. So his discography alone would make him like a strange, noteworthy sort of outsider art guy. But then he joins a hip-hop band doing like weird, strange hip hop and putting out strange statements about his music. You've got the singer, MC Ride, who is what everyone thought of as the screaming hobo when they first started. When you watch the video for Guillotine, and it's just this guy sitting in the passenger seat of a car with a beard like mine, just bobbing up and down like a madman, screaming, Guillotine! Yeah! And people were like, who the fuck is this guy? He breaks all like traditions of what you would expect from a rapper or from an artist or for what would be acceptable in a song, just screaming over shit. And then you have Flatlander, who's mysterious and not as many people know about him, but that also makes it so people sort of think, well, is he maybe the edge? Is he what holds this thing together? Is he the glue? Is he the true weirdness? Where do Death Grips get all these fucking samples from? Where do they get all this crazy shit? Could it maybe be Flatlander, I don't remember if this was a quote from someone in the band, but I know that they said that they get a lot of their samples from just recording shit all the time, just filming stuff everywhere they go, and then taking sound bites from that film, and then just making shit out of it, twisting it into sounding like sounds. That's why a lot of the sounds in Death Grips music are things that you've never heard before. It's like, where did this noise come from? How did you invent this? Yeah, we just have random footage laying around and we fuck with it in an audio editor. These three interesting personalities, and they create this music that's so out there, but it's also like not specific, and it changes a lot. All of their albums have completely different vibes. These days on the internet, I think there's been a movement towards bands that fill a very specific niche, or artists who fill a specific niche, right? We've gotten into this world where if I want to hear just exactly one kind of music, like one sound, like I just want to hear brutal technical death metal and nothing else, I can, find a band who makes all songs that are just brutal technical death metal, and their whole discography will sound like that, and it'll be this very uniform sound, and I can be like, cool, that's the sound I want. But Death Grips, even though they have their sound is aggressive, you can always describe it as sort of experimental industrial hip hop. It also is always different, song to song, album to album. It's always evolving. It's always this weird, strange beast that nothing else is. And so it feels like they're a band that's organic, that changes and evolves and grows as a band, and is never just this one stationary idea. It's this like flowing maelstrom of insanity. But what really makes Death Grips stand out, what they're, known for as a band, is also that they're fucking crazy. That all their business decisions are strange, the way they present themselves is strange, and all of it makes you think about the band. They released their first EP, their self-titled, and then their first mixtape, Ex-Military. Ex-Military was like released as I believe as a free album from the beginning. I know it's been a free album for a long time, but it's just like a bunch of MP3s floating around on the internet. They've got this weird ass website, their thirdworlds.net, where like it's a strange looking site, strange to navigate. But it'll just be all their lyrics. They'll put out these strange music videos where it'll be something like, again, MC Ride in the fucking passenger seat of a car screaming the lyrics to a song, and just the window is like blocked out with like TV static or something. Just like this feels like something that I would have made on no budget, expecting no audience, like filming random stuff that I think would be funny to put into a video. And this is what made them big. This is how they got out there. Then they get signed to a major record label for a 2-album deal. I think it was just for like, there was 2 albums they were promised for that year. They released Ex-Military in 2011, and they released these 2 albums in 2012. So they release The Money Store, this phenomenal album that's a total evolution from what they did before. Ex-Military is mostly based on samples, a lot of like recognizable samples from popular music. Is a lot of like punk and rock music from the 80s and 90s, like Jane's Addiction and Black Flag and like all these like recognizable samples. Pink Floyd from the 70s. God, the Pink Floyd sample was from their first album. I only found out about that recently. But they released the Money Store, and it's this totally different beast. Way more like original and esoteric and like, but also poppy at the same time. And like really with all these strong hooks, all these great songs. This phenomenal album reaches critical acclaim. You know, people are talking about it. And then they get ready to release their second one on this label. In the same year, No Love Deep Web. The album title is a photograph of Zach Hill's penis taken in a bathroom. He photographed his dick and wrote the words No Love Deep Web on his dick. And that's the album cover. I have it. I have the vinyl over there. I would get it out and show it to you, but you know, I don't want this video to get in trouble on YouTube. It came in like a black sleeve, and you have to open up the sleeve, and you know, there's his dick in fucking portraits in this size picture of Zach Hill's dick. That's the album cover. Then, because they're upset with their label and they want to release their albums on a specific, like they release all their albums like during the blood moon or the full moon, and like it's always like moon cycles represent when they release their fucking albums. No one knows why. Is it symbolic of something? Does it have anything to do with their music? I mean, moon comes up a lot in their song titles, but no one knows. No one knows what this shit's about. They just decide to release their albums during the moon, like based on the moon cycle. And so they get pissed off at their label and they just release the album for free online themselves. They're just like, fuck it, we're leaking our own album. And it's got a dick for a cover, you know, and it's a different sound from the last one. This one's way more dark, way more like just oppressive and visceral, but still fantastic music. You know, nothing they put out feels like just some lazy thing they threw together. It always feels like they really put thought into this and tried to come up with memorable hooks and like interesting sounds and really dense, unbelievably textured soundscapes that like you couldn't throw together. You would have to think about it and spend time on it, you know. And then they get kicked from their major label. I mean, on purpose. They get themselves kicked. They don't give a fuck. So then they, out of nowhere, drop an album. Whatever, government plates, here it is. Poop, it's on YouTube. Every video has like a really, really esoteric CG video that looks like someone who just learned how to make 3D objects just like rendered a bunch of random shit and made it spin around. And like those are the videos. Every song is a video, why not? Here it is, album, out of nowhere. And then they say like all along this time, you know, they're doing shows and shit, but they'll cancel shows at random, cancel tour dates, cancel whole tours. Don't give a fuck. Whatever. We didn't want to play that show today. You know, they get invited to a like Lollapalooza pre-show. You know, they're supposed to play on there, and instead they don't show up. They put a training drum kit on the stage, and had a screen like a television screen showing a suicide note that someone had sent them, and a speaker on stage playing their music. They don't show up to the show, they do that. The audience gets mad, gets on stage, destroys the drum kit. Is this a dick move? Of course. They fucked over some of their fans, fucked them out of their money, people who wanted to see them. I mean, these guys are assholes. But holy shit if they're not interesting assholes. Holy shit if they're not just doing whatever the fuck they want. These crazy people, you know? And it's always mysterious. None of them is like doing, like, I'm the guy, it was my idea, you know? They're just like, this is what Death Grips is. If you listen to their few public appearances, their few interviews that they give, it becomes even stranger. You know, they did a very brief interview with Adult Swim when they were on the Singles program, where Zach Hill's the only one who talks, and he was just kind of like, you know, we hope that people can, you know, maybe relate to our music, maybe get something out of it, but, you know, we're mostly just making it for, you know, for our own creative output. You've got the interview with Pitchfork with lead singer Stefan, who sounds like me, like totally normal voice, not a screaming hobo at all, just a regular sounding guy, you know. and he's explaining how he used to be, have a lot of influences, but over time has stopped looking to other people for influence and just digs into his soul or whatever, like he's not even connected to other human beings anymore. He's transcended this plane of existence. He's moved from one earth of 3D, this earth of 3D, to one earth of 4D or 5D, as they put it in their lyrics, and all their lyrics are like asocial madness. It'll be dark, depressive subject matters. Their first album felt human, at least. It felt like a very angry man who was like, I'm sick of this bullshit I put up with. He sounded paranoid, he sounded depressed, he sounded off the rails, but he still sounded human. Then you get to the Money Store, and that just evaporates. Now it's just madness. It's just madness from the core of someone's mind, spewing forth onto their records. This band releases the first half of a double album. They're called The Powers That Be. They release the first half, and then they are supposed to go on a tour with Nine Inch Nails and, what was the other band? The band that did Black Hole Sun. What the fuck are they called? Soundgarden. Nine Inch Nails and Soundgarden, double headliner. Death Grips is supposed to be opening for them. And, when they announced this, because my mom's a big Nine Inch Nails fan, and she was like, oh, I'm definitely going. And I said, I'm not buying tickets to that until 3 days beforehand. Because at this point, Death Grips has a reputation for canceling shows. I'm not going to buy tickets knowing that. Sure enough, they put out a handwritten letter on their Facebook announcing that the band's broken up. They're just done. Oh, Death Grips, we don't exist anymore. We decided to quit while we were at the top of our game. They didn't tell the tour people or anyone. Trent Reznor, the leader of Nine Inch Nails, tweets on, or he is Nine Inch Nails rather, puts out a tweet like, I can't believe I thought those guys would be able to hold it together. This dude learned about this through the internet. The lead act of the tour, one of the most respected and influential musicians ever in the genre of industrial music, which is somewhat of what Death Grips performs. He's just cold. You left out in the cold. Who gives a fuck? Whatever. They cancel their tour. They decide they're broken up. Until 6 months later, when they start putting out videos on their channel, they had announced that the title of the second half of their album would be Jenny Death, and they release a instrumental album called Fashion Week, in which the titles are Fashion Week J, Fashion Week E, Fashion Week N. It spells out Jenny Death When, which is what fans had been saying, Jenny Death When all the time. So they released an album that says Jenny Death When. Then they put out Jenny Death early this year. Still saying that they were broken up. They were like, we're still broken up, but we're going to release that album. And then now they're like, guess what? We're doing another album, Bottomless Pit, going to come out, who knows when. They announced this, by the way, by releasing a video that Zach Hill recorded of a 70-year-old actress sitting on the couch reading dialogue that he had written that he recorded years ago before she died, and he released it now with the announcement of that they're going to make an album called Bottomless Pit. This is what Death Grips is. This is madness. But it feeds into their lyrics and their themes so perfectly. This is what the music's about. It's about being crazy, outside, deranged people. It's aggressive, insane music about not fitting in with society, about not giving a fuck what anyone thinks, Amazing lyrics like, be the freak you want to see, just don't follow me, on Hacker, This is the kind of band they are, and it all creates that identity. They are one of the few bands today that everything feeds into each other. The music feeds into the people, feeds into the personalities. These larger-than-life characters, these personalities. And, they've been touring for after Jenny Death. The shows they play are wall-to-wall, non-stop, intense music. They don't stop playing. They don't talk to the audience. They play for 90 minutes straight. And they just play all the way through. All their best songs. Boosh! segueing right into each other, as loud as they can make it. You know, the fucking bass rattles stars out the sky, as one of their songs is called, accurate to their live performance. And they fucking dominate the stage. Zach Hill just goes apeshit on his drums. MC Ride's up there fucking holding the microphone like this, like a dick, and shaking it around in between, screaming, dominating the stage with his fucking "I got that bang, crazy people, but awesome band. That's what a cool band is. I'm not saying it makes them better musicians, although it can enhance the music to think about. You know, when you listen to this crazy, deranged music and you think about the people who made it, then it can make it even more powerful. But like, I just think that as a band, they're the most interesting. They're the ones who are the most memorable for being Death Grips, not for putting out this or that album, but for being Death Grips. When they released No Love Deep Web, they had an alternate reality game, like, I believe launched through 4chan, or at least 4chan were decoding it, the Mew board on 4chan. You know, I don't know if you know what an alternate reality game is. Look it up. It's deep shit. I believe Nine Inch Nails did one for an album release once. More common ground between those bands. But, yeah, they released an alternate reality game to, like, announce the release date of their album. There's, like, a whole mythology behind Death Grips. If you go onto the Death Grips subreddit, or if you hang out on Mew at any time when they're, like, relevant, then there's just, like, tons of people analyzing everything, trying to get to the bottom of all this music, trying to figure out what it all means, and what are all these symbols, and why do they release on blood moons, and does this song title clue us into when this album's coming out, and what can we find out about the people? You know, is people track down, like, MC Ride's dad, and like they didn't talk to him, but like they found messages from him, like suggesting that they had a falling out at some point, and he's trying to become friends with them again. But then they listen to the lyrics of No Love from No Love Deep Web, and it sounds like it's about falling out with your family or something. It's madness. This is madness. This is what they inspire through their attitude and their music, and they just put out great albums, lots of them. You know, in the span of 5 years, less than 5 years, they've put out Ex-Military, which is one of my favorite albums, The Money Store, one of my favorite albums, No Love Deep Web, a great album, Government Plates, which is a little bit more of, like, when I was saying that their releases aren't necessarily thrown together, Government Plates feels a little more thrown together for some of the songs, but it's got some fantastic tracks on there, you know. And some people consider it their best, because some people like that kind of music. But, you know, both parts of the Powers That Be, both fantastic. Even their instrumental album, I wasn't, like, super huge into it, but I thought it was interesting. They're just hit after hit after hit. Interesting music, interesting people, interesting history, you know. Zach Hill being in the band at all is interesting. Going back and listening to all his music is interesting. Looking at MC Ride and anything he's done, and like, you know, wondering where this guy came from and where he's going, and the mystery of Flatlander, discovering the samples that they use, where one of the samples, the sample from Get Got, the first track on The Money Store, it goes like, people found that on Bandcamp. It was from a compilation. This is the weirdest thing that exists ever, by the way. It was a compilation of ringtone songs from the Middle East. It might have been specifically like Saudi Arabia or something. It was from a Middle Eastern country, if not the Middle East in general. I don't remember, but it was like popular cell phone ringtone songs, and it was like an album of them. And this one, like, 5-second part of that album is a sample that is the main part of a Death Grips song. That's weird, but digging up the samples can be fun. And they also release stems of a lot of their music. So you can go onto their website and download a thing called Black Google, and it's got like the isolated vocals, the isolated beats and stuff from like every song on the album. And they've released those stems for, I believe, all of their albums except maybe The Powers That Be. And so, people can remix it, people can play with it, find what they want through it. They release all their lyrics. So they're like this puzzle that you have to solve or try to solve or decide how invested you want to get. Maybe you just like their singles and don't even like their albums. Maybe you're an obsessive crazy fan who spends all your time on the Death Grip subreddit trying to figure out the meaning of the Blood Moon. But like, I don't think there's a lot of that anymore. I don't think there's a lot of bands like that could inspire that. I think Tool was maybe like that in like the early 2000s. I think something like Pink Floyd or King Crimson or something could have inspired that kind of fanaticism in the past. Or, of course, big bands like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. Bands where people remember the names of the members. Where people, like, say, oh, yeah, fucking Walter Becker from Steely Dan. Like, people know these names. And a lot of bands that are popular have, like, the one guy. People know Opeth, they know Michael Achterfeld. People know Coheed and Cambria, they know Claudio Sanchez. It's like, there's the one guy who's like the singer-songwriter, but Death Grips is like three fascinating personalities doing fascinating things and making fascinating music. And that's why I think Death Grips might be the best band of the current decade. Took a lot longer to explain than I expected, because it says 26 minutes. Pour myself some more box wine. And that's it. Not that he at all Tano. Death Grips forever.